Hey, thanks again for stopping by. Okay, so today we're going to talk a little bit more about my favorite topic of prospecting, okay? Now, prospecting itself, there's a couple things you need to understand when you're prospecting, okay? The first thing you need to understand is that everything you talk about has to revolve around their motivation, okay? Has to revolve around it. If they're not motivated, all right, then it doesn't really matter any of the words you say, because really at the end of the day, you can't lead a horse to water, and make them drink. The only way you can do that is to give them salt, okay? Now here's the salt. The thing about it is that people react to move away from pain or towards pleasure, all right? So what you want to do is figure out what is it that is motivating these people, okay? So when you're talking to them, you're saying, well, I'm just curious, it's a beautiful looking home. I'm curious, where are you going when you do sell, okay? And they say, well, we're moving off to Tuscaloosa, Alabama or whatever, okay? Now, the average agent would probably stop there, all right? But because you're trained, you're going to ask them a couple other questions to find out the motivations that's taking them to Tuscaloosa. Oh, no kidding, Tuscaloosa. That's amazing. What takes you out there? Well, my mom died, and so I need to be near my family, okay? Well, they're moving away from the pain of being away from their family here. They got to be there to be near the family, okay? Or I'm moving there because I got a new job, which is pleasure, okay? You always want to find out what that actual motivation is and then try and get it as crystal clear in your head as possible, okay? Once you've determined their motivation, okay, obviously the second stock question that I always ask is, so when you do sell, okay, ideally, when would you like to have this done by, okay? And they say, well, we need to be there by, I don't know, next summer or May or whatever, right? So the time frame, okay, is the next most important thing. If they need to do something in less than 3 months, okay, then that's something you really need to deal with. If it's something that's greater than 3 months, okay, like they don't care or whatever, then that's when that's really going to cause a problem for you. Because pounding and closing and hardening, just really trying to get them to do something, if they don't have a significant amount of motivation, really all you're going to do is end up, hurting the client, hurting yourself, hurting your own psyche. What you're looking for is this guy right here, the one who has got to do it right now. This is the top of their mind. This is the person that's saying, you know what, I have got to sell this home. That's the one you want, okay? Now, how you determine this is with a simple question. You say, well, let me ask you this. On a scale of 1 to 10, okay, if 1 was like, hey, Carl, bring over your 5 best buyers right this minute, okay? I'm wanting to sell this home. I'm wanting to sell it at fair market value. And 10 was like, hey, I don't care. I'm only going to sell it if I get my price. Where do you think you'd fall in that, okay? If they say that they're anything greater than a 5, okay, then that's not a very good prospect for you. If they say, well, I don't know, I guess we're probably maybe a 3, 4, 5, that's somebody you want to deal with. Because now they're saying they want to sell it at fair market value, that they want you to bring the buyers over, okay? Now the third question, all right, always revolves, let me just erase this really quick, okay? All right, in what happens if it doesn't sell? What happens? What happens if it doesn't sell? Because think about it. Most people who put their home on the market assume that it's going to sell. And the reality of the matter is that only about 40% of homes that go on the multiple listing service actually sell. That is a sobering statistic. Most people assume that when they put their home on the market, it's going to sell automatically because it's in great condition, it's a nice house, it's beautiful, it's different than everybody else, and all the blah, 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 okay? The problem is that everybody thinks that, and everybody's home is the same, and really what it all boils down to is one factor, and that is price, okay? Price is determined by their motivation. Now, what happens if the home doesn't sell, all right? So, Mr. Seller, it looks like a great house, and I can't imagine this scenario, but what happens if it doesn't sell? Ask that question in that fashion, okay? And when you ask that question, all right, what you'll find is if they're being completely realistic, all right, then they will have thought this part through. Well, then I suppose we might have to hire a realtor. Or, well, we might have to rent the property out. Or, well, I don't know what we're going to do because we got to sell it, all right? Because most people do not just jump into this situation without thinking things through, okay? Most people don't just wake up one day and say, to themselves, you know what, I think I ought to sell my home. Most people, the way that the process starts is they see somebody's sign in the yard, down the road, and they start thinking about it. Maybe we ought to sell our property too. And then maybe a little bit later, that one comes up as a sold listing. And then once they've determined that it's a sold listing, they say, well, gosh, they got $100,000 for their place. That place is a dump. I mean, our house is much nicer. We surely could sell ours for $125,000, okay? And so then they end up going ahead and putting their home on the market, okay? That's the way the process works. But when you tell them, well, what happens if the home doesn't sell? Then you're attacking the psyche of them, thinking, well, wait a minute, this other joker sold his place for $100,000. It was a piece of crap. Mine must sell because it's in beautiful condition. I know it's 25% over the market value, but it surely is going to sell. When you start entering into that conversation, that's when you're really starting to get real with the client, okay? So what I would recommend to you is that in your prospecting, use those 3 questions to go ahead and find out specifically what it is in the client's time, the client's motivation, and the client's thought process about what happens if it doesn't sell. Hopefully that helps you out. You take care and make it a powerful selling day. Bye-bye.